and welcome to 𝗤𝗲𝗋𝗁𝗁, where we teach you all about gardening in the great indoors. If you'd like to support our show, please use our Amazon affiliate link below. Today I am going to talk about what to do about the aerial roots on Monstera Aerial plants. The aerial roots are these brown, and sometimes they're gray, sometimes they're green roots that seem to be growing all over the place, especially as the plant matures and you're wondering, like, what the heck do I do with all these? I had one Monstera once that had so many that it was all over the floor and I kept tripping on them, so they can be problematic. So the question is, people will ask, well, can I just remove them? Well, first of all, it's important to understand what they do, and I have a video on the different types of roots on the Monsteras, but I'll go into briefly what they do here in this one. Well, this video as well, especially the aerial roots, because that's what we're talking about here, rather than the other two types of roots, which aren't the ones that get in the way and that you could potentially trip on. So the aerial roots, what the plant uses these roots for is to climb up trees in the jungle. These roots also absorb water and nutrients from the air. So there is a purpose to these roots besides just looking funky and hanging down. And there are some things that you can do with the roots rather than cutting them, although you can cut them. But consider when you cut them that you are cutting off a part of the plant that is supposed to be there. There is a reason for those roots. So the plant will absorb less moisture from the air because it won't have the aerial roots. It will be absorbing the moisture just through the roots. And so that is something to keep in mind. Also, if you want to grow a Monstera the way that they are naturally grown, then you'll want to keep the aerial roots on. So I'm going to talk to you about that. We're going to talk about installing a moss pole. So this moss pole simulates the the trunks that one of these plants would grow up in its natural environment. And so you can install these and then wrap these long aerial roots onto this. They make even longer ones than this. You can also make your own. I probably will do a video on making your own in the future. This is one that I did purchase. I'll put a link below for getting these. So first of all, though, I do want to show you where, if you do decide that you would like to cut the aerial roots, just cut them all off and be done with it, because this is a personal thing. If you just don't like it, it's too messy looking, you don't want them, you don't necessarily want to do a moss pole, and you still can do the moss pole even without them, then this is what you would want to do. So we're going to show you, I'm going to take off this shorter one here. So when you take them off, you want to take them off close to the stem. And I'm going to do a close-up here so that you can see that. You want to get really close to the stem, but you do not want to cut into the stem, because that could introduce pests, diseases. It could make the whole stem die. And this is a stem that's attached to quite a few leaves, so I definitely don't want to do that. I'm going to turn this a little bit so we can see a little bit better here. Now, locating the one that I'm removing, then we will go ahead and close up so you can get a really good look. Okay, so now see here we have it's attached. You can see it's attached to the stem there, and it is right above a leaf node, which will also can be a stem node if we were to cut it here and then root it, giving you a good look. It's kind of hard to turn it sometimes. So there, right there, and then here is the one we're going to remove. So as mentioned, you want to remove it close to the stem here. You wouldn't want to leave any growing. If you cut it here, it's just going to continue to grow. Also keep in mind, as mentioned, these plants grow, this is how they grow in the wild. They grow with aerial roots. So even though you cut off all the aerial roots, you're going to get more aerial roots. That will stimulate more growth too. So of the aerial root. So just keep that in mind. But if you decide you do want to take them off, then you can do that as well. As mentioned, you just have to consider you'll have to do it again. Okay, so I'm going to cut it very close here. Let's say probably about a 1/16, between an between an 1/8 and a 1/16 of an inch left there. As I mentioned, you want to get close, but you want to be careful that you don't cut into the layer of the stem, because you're going to have some problems if you do that. So there you go. I removed this one. I removed a shorter one because I really do want to keep most of them on here. So you can see it's, and then see where we cut it there too as well. Okay. So it is hard now, you can hardly see it, but okay, there it is. So there's where I cut it. So you can get a really good close-up of that. Okay, so now I'm going to zoom out, and what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you inserting a moss pole. So a moss pole is, as mentioned, simulating how a structure like the trunk of trees, branches of trees that the Monstera would grow on naturally. So this is a way that you can corral, so to speak, those aerial roots. And this one comes with a stalk on the bottom. You can easily put it in. You put it in around the center of the plant, depending on how the plant is setting in the pot. Okay, these have sphagnum moss on them. That can be an irritant, so you do want to always make sure that you wear gloves when you handle these moss poles. You also want to make sure to spray the moss pole to get it nice and moist. You can even go ahead and soak the moss pole before using it. That's also something good to do, and then continue spraying afterwards. So I will go ahead and spray it after I attach some of these aerial roots. And you want to attach the stems themselves along with the aerial roots. What you want to use when you're doing that is this green garden tape. I have a video on how great this stuff is and why you want to use it. It stretches as the plant grows, so it won't girdle the plant, and I have a video on what girdling is and how bad that is. It's basically cutting into the stem or the trunk of the tree, and it will choke the plant. So here we go. I've got a piece here. I'm going to take this aerial root here, and I'm going to take a chunk of leaves, and I actually didn't cut this piece long enough. This is a little bit bigger. So here you go. What you want to do really is you want to corral this plant so it's growing up. You want to have your Monstera growing upwards like it would in the jungle. And this one here, I'm going to get this out of the way because this is actually a rooted one that also has some aerial roots, but I don't want this one to get in the way here. So let's just get it out of the way. Okay. Okay, that is out of the way now, so we don't have to worry about it. Okay, so we are going to attach, as mentioned, to get them to the plant to grow upwards as much as possible. So you need to have a long enough piece of the green garden tape to do that easily. You can always cut it off later. I'm bringing this up. I'm going to tie it loosely to the pole here. You want to allow it for growth and easy growth and that sort of thing. Okay, so there you can see that's holding up quite a bit. Now we have this guy that can be, so we've got one of these that I'm twisting around, and they will all, after they it starts to grow, they will do this themselves. As mentioned, they make longer poles. You may very well need to get a longer pole if you have a even bigger Monstera. Also keeping in mind they are going to grow. It is possible to keep this one in there and then put even a longer one on the other side. So some of the shorter leaves could grow on that, and then the longer leaves could grow on the top one as well. So that is another possibility. I have another leaf, another root over here that I'm winding around. So there we go. So you can see, and you can even wind the roots even through each other a little bit, just to hold them on a little bit there. So you can see that this is a very effective thing to do here. And it's something, like I said, that makes the plant grow more like it naturally would. As I mentioned, this plant has been doing some revival with it, so it's still growing, still kind of being revived. So you have to kind of play with it. If you don't, maybe you only need to attach part of it to the moss pole and not the whole thing. You're gonna have to play around a little bit and see what looks good and that sort of thing. But as mentioned, you can get these aerial roots to grow on it. I've got another one on there too, rather than be just hanging down. So you see, we've corralled pretty much most of those roots. These are attached. This one's coming back around over here. So we've got that attached there. There's another one over here that's can't really do much about right now. It actually looks like it got hit and it's kind of broken. So I am going to remove that one. So you might want to do like that, just remove some and then preserve some so that you get the plant stays fairly healthy that way. So you can see we've got here kind of a crazy thing still going on. So you can work on, and I did have this in here. I think I had this to hold this up to give this a little bit of, there we go. So that's a little bit better for that piece there. So as I said, purpose of trying to grow it up, but the leaves are going to continue to get bigger. This will need to be repotted not too long from now, because they do tend to like to be potted up fairly frequently. So we'll be doing that. And so you can see it's at least now we don't have the too much of that hanging down on the ground thing, including the leaves and the roots. So there you go. And then I will be spraying this really well, the whole moss pole, so it's nice and moist, because what happens is the aerial roots will absorb the moisture from the moss pole, and then that's another way for the plant to stay hydrated. And as you know, if you've grown one of these plants, or you will find out as you grow one of these plants, they are very big drinkers. Now, as I always say, when you think about plants, and you can think about their origins, right? So these are from the jungle where it rains a lot, right? So of course they would be big drinkers. And that hence, it's better to have their aerial roots to absorb even more liquid water for them, moisture for them. And they will also absorb some nutrients as well. Thank you for stopping by today. Please leave any comments about any indoor gardening tutorials you'd like to see. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share this video. And please check the bell if you'd like to be notified when new videos are released.